There's a name for what happens to the social self after years of working in rooms where the only people present are on a screen. It isn't introversion. It isn't shyness. And it isn't social anxiety in the way most people use that term. It's something more specific. And knowing the name for it changes what you think is possible. The name is social atrophy. And this video is about what it actually is, how remote work produces it, and this is the part that matters, whether it goes away. Because there's a fear underneath the experience that most people never say out loud. Not just that social situations feel harder than they used to, but that maybe they always will. That maybe something changed. Not temporarily, not fixably, but in a way that's now just who you are. That fear deserves a real answer. Not reassurance, a real one. So let's start with what the experience actually looks like. For anyone who's been in it, you're in a social situation, a work event, a friend's gathering, a first meeting with someone who could become a real connection. And you notice something you didn't used to notice. You're working, not visibly. Nobody in the room can see it, but there's a layer of internal management happening that didn't used to be there. You're tracking how you're coming across. You're choosing words with a half-second delay you didn't have before. You're monitoring the performance of being natural, which is, of course, the precise thing that makes being natural impossible. And then you leave, and you're exhausted in a way that feels disproportionate. You talk to people for 2 hours, you weren't rude, nobody knows anything happened, but you're wiped out in a specific way. Like you were translating the whole time. And somewhere on the drive home, or in the quiet of your apartment afterward, the thought arrives. This didn't used to be this hard. Here's the part that makes this confusing. You talk to people all day, Slack messages, video calls, emails that require tone calibration, client conversations that require real-time responsiveness. By any reasonable measure, you are a communicating person, so the erosion doesn't make sense on the surface. If you're communicating constantly, why does real-world social contact feel like a skill you're losing? That question is the center of this video, and the answer is more specific and more useful than anything the standard conversation about loneliness tends to offer. Digital communication and in-person social presence are not the same skill. They share vocabulary, and they share intention, but they do not share the thing that social fluency actually requires. Here's the distinction that most content about this topic misses entirely. When you communicate digitally, you have something that real-time human presence never gives you. Editorial control. You write, and you can revise before you send. You can take 30 seconds to find the right word. You can delete the thing you said and replace it with a better version. You can manage the impression you're making at every step. And after years of primarily digital interaction, your brain adapts to that. It gets good at the edited version. What it gets less practiced at is the unedited version. The version of you that has to be present in real time, without a delete key, without a half-second buffer, without the ability to manage what the other person is seeing before they see it. That version, the one that shows up in actual rooms with actual people, hasn't been getting the reps. Think of it this way. You could go to the gym every day and never train a specific muscle. If you only ever do cardio, your legs will be strong and your upper body will weaken. The time in the gym is real. The effort is real. But the specific muscle isn't being worked. Remote work is a full-day cardio session for the communication centers of your brain. The volume is high, but the specific practice of real-time, unedited, genuinely present social contact, the kind that produces actual closeness, is close to zero. Research on remote workers consistently surfaces this pattern. A 2024 survey of 1,000 remote employees found that 1 in 4 reported their social abilities had declined since transitioning to full-time remote work, with people specifically naming self-consciousness, difficulty with small talk, and discomfort with basic real-time signals like eye contact. 1 in 4. Not a small edge case? And a study drawing from the 2024 Household Pulse Survey, representing more than 33 million employed American adults, found a statistically significant relationship between the frequency of remote work and loneliness, with those working remotely 5 or more days per week showing meaningfully higher odds of reporting loneliness than those with regular in-person contact. The data isn't surprising, but it's useful to hear it said plainly. This is not an individual failure. This is a predictable outcome of a specific set of conditions that a very large number of people are living inside right now. The talking is real. The editing is doing the work. The muscle underneath, the one that shows up unedited, in real time, in an actual room, is being rested while everything else runs. And rested muscles, over time, atrophy. That's not a metaphor. That's the mechanism. So here's the question that actually brought you to this video. Not what is social atrophy. The question underneath that one, is this permanent? Is it possible that after enough years of this, enough accumulated preference for the edited version, enough social situations that felt like work, enough Sunday nights spent telling yourself you'll get better at this, is it possible that the capacity for easy, unself-conscious, genuinely present social contact is just gone? That the person who used to walk into rooms and be there without monitoring it, without translating, without exhaustion, is that person a former version? It's worth sitting with that fear for a moment, not to dismiss it, but because it deserves a real answer. And the real answer starts with understanding what atrophy actually means. Atrophy is not loss. This is the thing that the fear gets wrong. Muscle atrophy doesn't mean the muscle was removed. It means the muscle was not used enough to maintain its current size and strength. The muscle is still there. It's smaller than it was. It's weaker than it was. It tires faster than it did, but it is structurally present and structurally capable of being rebuilt through the right kind of practice. Social atrophy works the same way. The capacity for real-time, unedited, genuinely present social connection is not gone from you. It has not been deleted. It has been underlaid, covered over by a layer of adaptation that made complete sense given the environment you've been operating in. Editing your presentation before it goes out is a rational response to a world that rewards curated output. Developing a monitoring layer for real-time social situations is a rational response to years of social contact that came with the option to revise. These are adaptations, and adaptations, unlike losses, can be reversed. Here's the distinction that matters more than any other in this video. There is a difference between a character verdict and a practice deficit. A character verdict is, this is who you are, fixed, structural to your personality, not movable. A practice deficit is, this is a skill that hasn't been trained in a specific way for a specific amount of time. Entirely different problem, entirely different prognosis. What you've been experiencing, the social situations that feel effortful, the exhaustion afterward, the monitoring layer, the self-consciousness in rooms where you used to be easy. That is a practice deficit, not your fault, and also not your sentence. You didn't choose the environment that produced the adaptation. You did not ask for the architecture of your working life to remove the ambient social contact that used to keep this specific skill maintained. But you can choose what happens next. And knowing the difference between a verdict and a deficit is what makes the next choice possible. It's real, it has a name. And it reverses. Not quickly, not without the specific discomfort of doing something that feels unfamiliar, but it reverses. If this name's something you've been living with and you want to know what the actual practice looks like, not a list of tips, but a real structured protocol for rebuilding social fluency from where you actually are right now. There's a 21-day practice in the description. It starts with 5-minute microactions. Nothing that requires putting yourself out there cold. It's built for people who understand the problem and need the structure to move through it. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. So if social atrophy is a practice deficit, the question becomes, what does the right practice actually look like? And this is where the standard advice tends to go wrong in a specific way. The standard advice is exposure. Go to the events, join the groups, put yourself out there. And what happens when someone in active social atrophy follows that advice? They go to the event. They spend the whole time in the monitoring layer, working, translating, managing the impression. They leave exhausted. They haven't trained the thing that needed training. They've just done a harder version of the same cardio. The practice that actually reverses social atrophy is not about volume of exposure. It's about the quality of a specific thing. Real-time, unedited presence. Moments where you're in actual contact with another person, not managing the output, not editing before delivery, but actually present in the exchange as it's happening. Those moments don't have to be long. They don't have to be meaningful. They don't have to produce a friendship. The first reps at the gym after a long break are not impressive. They're not the workout you'll eventually be able to do. They're just the specific muscle being asked to activate again. A 30-second genuine exchange with a person you'll never see again counts. A moment of actual presence in a conversation that you'd normally coast through on autopilot counts. A message sent without the 15 minutes of editing, the ordinary one, the imperfect one, counts. These aren't the grand solution. They are the physical therapy, the small, consistent, graduated reactivation of a specific capacity that has been resting. And because this audience has tried the grand solution before, the events, the apps, the forcing yourself, it's worth being honest about what those experiences were. They weren't failures of effort. They were the wrong kind of practice for the specific deficit. Going to a large social event when you're in deep social atrophy is the equivalent of signing up for a 10K the week after your cast comes off. The path out of social atrophy is not dramatic. It's regular, it's specific, it's smaller than the fear makes it seem, and it starts not with a grand gesture toward connection, but with a willingness to be unedited for 30 seconds in an ordinary moment with no audience and no stakes. That's the muscle activating. That's the beginning of the reversal. If this opens something you want to take further, the resource in the description is built exactly for where you are right now. 21 days. Specific practices. Starting from zero social risk. Link in the description and the pinned comment. When did you first notice social situations felt like more work than they used to? And did you have a name for it before today? Here's what's worth carrying from this. The experience you've been having, the social situations that feel effortful, the monitoring layer, the exhaustion that feels out of proportion. The person you used to be in rooms who seems harder to access than they once were. That experience is real. You are not imagining the erosion, but the erosion is not the same thing as the loss. Social atrophy means the capacity is still there. The muscle is still there, smaller than it was, slower to activate, faster to tire, but structurally present and structurally capable of being rebuilt. What happened to your social self was not a mystery. Remote work removed the ambient, unedited, real-time social contact that used to keep a specific skill maintained without you ever having to think about it. The commute that put you next to strangers, the office that created the hallway conversation, the unplanned lunch, the version of you that other people could see being ordinary. When those structures were removed, the practice stopped. And when practice stops, atrophy begins. That's not a character flaw. That's physics. The version of you that used to be easy in rooms. The one who could be fully present with another person without monitoring the performance. That version is not a former self. They are not behind you. They are underneath. Underneath a layer of reasonable, rational, completely understandable adaptation to an environment that rewarded the edited version over the present one. And layers can be moved, not in a night. Not through a single event or a single brave conversation or a single decision to try harder. Through the specific, quiet, unglamorous work of practicing real-time presence in small moments until the monitoring layer becomes unnecessary again. Until the edit reflex slows down. Until the muscle remembers. The path back is not the one you were handed. The path back is smaller, more specific, and more within reach than the atrophy makes it feel. You already understand this better than you think. The fact that you could recognize the symptom, that you knew something had changed, even before you had the name for it, means the part of you that knows what genuine presence feels like is still here. It's been waiting.